Welcome to another installment of Deconstructing Babylon, where we discern the signs and symbols of the mystery religion of Hollywood Babylon. I'm the Discerning Clerk, and I use a biblical framework to deconstruct my favorite movies from the 90s.
Noticed your eyeglasses. They don't have any lenses in them.
They're my dad's. The lenses hurt my eyes.
Today's selection is a coming-of-age, multiverse, black and white turned colorized comedy drama, Pleasantville. Lots of duality exists just in the premise, but let's not dwell on it yet. The movie came out in 1998, and it boasts a star-studded ensemble cast where each member had successful and enduring careers. Surprisingly, Pleasantville garners a full 5 stars from the Video Movie Guide and says this: "This shy, provocative allegory reveals the shortcomings of 1950s-style sitcom utopias in a manner that is as subversive as writer-director-producer Gary Ross' ingenious storyline. During the film's first half, you'll giggle and gasp at the execution of the witty premise. 2 modern-day teens get zapped back into the black-and-white universe of a vintage television situation comedy, where they're unable to resist meddling with the quaintly idealistic values found within the picture-perfect small-town setting. The film initially exaggerates these old-fashioned white bread conventions, and it's hard not to laugh, until Ross finally tightens the screws by demonstrating what happens when any establishment grows uneasy about change, while adding a whole new spin to the phrase, 'no service to coloreds.' It's astonishing to consider that 1998 brought us this film and The Truman Show, 2 similarly creative and enlightening allegories, both of which succeed so splendidly, with each disclosing the limitations of artificially ideal environments." Rated PG. Whew, that was a long one. I find it very interesting that they compare this film to The Truman Show, which came out the same year, and yet write as if they're both creative and unique ideas. And all without the slightest irony that these movies are meant to shine a light on the darkness of the television industry, the thing I call the mystery religion of Hollywood Babylon. So, let's see what we see in Pleasantville. The movie begins with TV programming, quickly flicking between channels when we finally land on a particular program called TV Time that claims to only broadcast old shows in black and white.
Why, it's fun for the whole family.
We go on to learn of an upcoming Pleasantville marathon, which is something we had to wait for before streaming services and binge watching. We've been briefly introduced to some Pleasantville characters, but before we meet them, we cut to a 90s high school scene and meet nerdy Peter Parker. I mean, David.
You know, I know you, as everybody knows you.
We get a brief montage of the type of instruction typical for the 90s. Scare tactics to get students into college, the HIV/AIDS rhetoric for non-monogamous sexual relationships, and even the depletion of the ozone layer. They've truly been pushing climate change for decades.
By the time you are 30 years old, average global temperature will have risen 2.5 degrees, causing such catastrophic consequences as typhoons, floods, widespread drought, and famine.
I mean, that night, David is taking in an episode of Pleasantville as his divorced mother argues with David's father about custody. I mean, he's a high school senior. Can he not be left alone for even the weekend?
What's a mother to do?
At school the next day, we meet David's twin sister, Jennifer, who is the opposite of her brother. Cool, popular, blonde. Though these two aren't identical twins, Hollywood Babylon uses the symbolism often to point to duality. Sometimes it's a 9/11 predictor pointer, other times it's a Freemason symbol of the twin pillars in their temple. I'm leaning towards the latter. That night, the 2 siblings fight over the TV. David wants to watch the Pleasantville Marathon, and Jennifer wants to watch MTV with a boy she likes, and they end up breaking the remote.
It's a new TV, Jen. It doesn't work without a remote.
As luck would have it, at that moment, a TV repairman arrives at their house.
You know, we didn't call any TV repair.
The convenient repairman quizzes David on his Pleasantville knowledge and seems delighted when this young man seems to know even more than the seasoned vet. So he gives him a more powerful remote control for his viewing pleasure.
You want something that'll put you right in the show.
And through movie magic, or the magic of television, David and Jennifer are transported into the Pleasantville show, replacing teens Bud and Mary Sue, the main sibling duo.
We're in Pleasantville?
The TV repairman appears to them through the TV, but he doesn't really explain why this happened, only that he's been looking for someone for years. The Pleasantville parents, George and Betty, act like nothing is wrong and proceed to serve a carb and fat-heavy breakfast to their teens.
And of course, a ham steak.
On the way to school, Jennifer laments their situation, being away from a life she loves, her friends at school, and the boy she likes, until Skip shows up.
Hello, Mary Sue.
The small-town 1950s television curriculum is much different than the high school in the real world. Jennifer questions what is outside Pleasantville, and it seems an unanswerable question. Which begs another question. Who does the basketball team play to be undefeated if there's nothing outside of Pleasantville? The team is called the Lions, and I don't want to forget that tidbit because it has biblical meaning.
That's it, man. Keep it up. Big game tomorrow.
When David tells Skip that he shouldn't ask his sister out, it's off script, and then the first thing goes wrong. Skip misses a basket.
If you don't go out with this guy, we could throw their whole universe out of whack.
I have to wonder if recasting Bud and Mary Sue has an impact on the Pleasantville Marathon. Do the viewers at home see David and Jennifer and the changes they're causing? David goes to work at the soda shop, and we meet his mild-mannered boss, Mr. Johnson.
I didn't know what to do.
What's wrong?
Well, I always wipe down the counter, and then you set out the napkins and glasses, and then I make the French fries, and...
Yeah.
But you didn't come, so I just kept on wiping.
This reminds me of WandaVision and the residents on the outskirts of town who were frozen in repetition because the camera wasn't on them. The soda shop is the place for all the kids to hang. And that night, Jennifer goes on a date with clueless Skip.
Gosh, I didn't know what I talked to you about.
Jennifer pushes Skip into having sex with her, something David said they wouldn't even think about.
Something's happening to me.
That's supposed to happen.
Mr. Johnson comes to see David after the boy left the soda shop so quickly, and we see a strange interaction between Mr. Johnson and Betty, Bud's mother. After their intimacy, something new and different happens to Skip again. He sees color. And when Skip shares his experience with the basketball team, they're all thrown off their game. And it's contagious. More pops of color. And Lover's Lane turns into a spot for actual lovers, not just Parkers.
It'll probably just clear up on its own.
Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson is having an existential crisis from the monotony of his scripted life.
It never changes. It never gets any better or worse.
Okay, just...
David doesn't want Pleasantville to change. He loves its simplistic perfection, unlike Jennifer, who wants everyone to see their world in full color. Mr. Johnson tells David that he loves Christmas time because there's some variety, and he gets the chance to express his creativity with painting.
I think that you should try not to think about that anymore.
After the basketball team loses its first game, the townspeople take notice, including the mayor, Big Bob.
What I want to know is, if they've never lost before and they've never tied before, isn't that what you call winning them all?
Betty questions her daughter about the activities at Lover's Lane, and when Jennifer tells her the kids are having sex, Betty is clueless.
What's sex?
You've had 2 children, Betty. I'm sure you know what sex is. Even if there was a naivety in those days, it was mostly just a subject not talked about. But people knew what sex is. When Betty chooses to explore her own body, she doesn't just see color. She ignites a fire. A fire that firefighters aren't sure how to put out. There's never been a fire in Pleasantville. Not a candle, not a burning log on the hearth, certainly not spontaneous combustion of a tree.
So that's what these things do.
David is recognized as a hero, and the script changes again. A female student bakes cookies for Bud when she was meant to bake them for another boy.
No, I baked them for you.
As more people and things become colorized in Pleasantville, more questions arise about what may be outside of their tiny enclosed town.
There's some places where the road keeps going.
The books that were formerly blank are starting to fill in, and the minds of the high schoolers are also starting to fill in. And unfortunately for George, his wife Betty is the first adult in Pleasantville to begin to change and be colorized.
How can I go out there this way?
If David really wants nothing to change in Pleasantville, he goes about it in a strange way when he brings an art book to his boss, Mr. Johnson. And then he asks out a girl from school, the girl who baked him cookies. Back at home, the TV repairman appears to David again, expressing concern about what is showing up on the reruns. So the changes are affecting the show somewhat. David also realizes it's not just sex that changes people in Pleasantville. It's more about trying new things or doing something uncharacteristic.
It's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Betty is still using gray makeup to cover up her colorization. But Mr. Johnson has found paint in many colors, and he paints an abstract dual Santa Claus in springtime. An interesting choice. Betty's makeup smudges, and rather than shame her, Mr. Johnson helps her. And even Jennifer is changing, choosing to stay in at night and read. But David is still on his date, and under the full moonlight, his date picks a red apple to give him to eat.
Go ahead, try it.
Now, we already know the movie is satirical in nature, and this particular scene certainly seems to point to the original sin in the Garden of Eden. When George comes home that night, it's to a dark and empty house. A storm begins to brew in Pleasantville, a place that has never seen a cloud in the sky, let alone rain.
What's going on?
It's rain.
George has seemed fairly oblivious to the changes in Pleasantville and in his own life until he's personally affected.
Where's my dinner?
The mayor bands the men together, who all seem lost with the uncomfortable changes in their wives, children, and town as a whole. After the rain, a rainbow appears over the town and seems to wash everything in color that was formerly in black and white. Well, almost everything. David remains unchanged, and the hard, stoic residents who want things to go back to the way they were.
It goes away. It'll go away.
I don't want it to go away.
Betty is determined to leave her black and white life behind, her husband, her children, her home, all to pursue her own happiness and fulfillment with Mr. Johnson. The unchanged town members gather for a meeting to decide what, if anything, can be done about the colorization.
It seems to me that the first thing we have to do is to separate out the things that are pleasant from the things that are unpleasant.
Filmmakers are really forcing this as a race segregation issue, a cinematic social comment of bygone times. But I have yet to see even one black resident in Pleasantville. In an outrageous move, Mr. Johnson paints a nude, colorized portrait of newly separated Betty on his soda shop window for all to see, including her children. The TV repairman is becoming more stern with David about what's happening in Pleasantville.
Because you're coming home, you little twerp, and I'm going to put this place back the way it was.
And in a rare move of aggression, as David defends Betty from an attack, he finally gets his color. The town gets to work to separate the unpleasant things, which is essentially destroying anyone or anything in color. And the colorized come together to try to fix what has been torn down. Town council agrees on a list of rules or guidelines for everyone in Pleasantville. David reads them to the outcasts, and he only gets to number 8, but I was waiting for a full 10.
All elementary and high school curriculum shall teach the non-changeist view of history, emphasizing continuity over alteration.
David and Mr. Johnson paint a mural in protest on the side of the police station, and the two are arrested for it. George comes to visit his son in jail and really only has concern for himself and not for David.
What happened? 1 minute, everything's fine. The next... What went wrong?
Nothing went wrong. People change.
At the trial, David and Bill appear before the mayor as judge and Chamber of Commerce as jury. The two defendants don't get a lawyer, an expert in the law, because there is no law in Pleasantville.
Do you have anything to say in your defense?
In his defense, David goes on to describe the human condition, and as he does, George changes before their very eyes. And as the rest of the residents discover what is already inside them, the mayor himself is colorized. Then the whole town. Buildings, vehicles, flowers, streets, and TVs. There are so many changes, the town even opens itself up to the outside world. And when the time comes to leave, Jennifer decides to stay in Pleasantville.
I did the sled thing, David. Got kind of old.
She boards the bus dressed all in blue, saying goodbye to her twin brother in a checkerboard shirt. But Bud's girlfriend and mother also want to say goodbye to David, and he gets a red sweater for the trip home. The twin duality is back. He uses his magic remote control to transport back to his own home and time period, back to reality. And to David's surprise, his mom came home from her planned trip away. I wonder what he's going to tell her about where Jennifer is. Inconsequential, I guess.
I'm 40 years old. I mean, it's not supposed to be like this.
It's not supposed to be anything.
Back in a fully colorized Pleasantville, there are still no clear answers. The movie ends with Betty and George on a bench with no way forward. And maybe there's hope they can reconcile. Until George becomes Bill, and there's still no way forward. Betty hasn't made the choice between them, and she never will. The synopsis compared this movie to Truman Show, which I've deconstructed on the channel before. And while I can see some comparisons, there is much different symbolism. The questions I had during the Truman Show were all answered within, but Pleasantville leaves me with more questions than answers. And the first one is this. Why does the TV repairman put David into the show in the first place? He says he's been looking for someone for years, but why? He comes across as a villain of sorts, which makes me think he's a Babylonian counterfeit of the Most High. I mean, we never learn his name. He shows up at the most inopportune times. He's familiar with Pleasantville, but isn't a character there. He lives in the real world, but in a set-apart way. David gets sent into Pleasantville not to change their ways, and not to rescue himself from his own life, though that's the way it may come across. He's chosen because of his intimate and accurate knowledge of Pleasantville. And maybe it's directly to recast the Bud character. Yet these people don't know they're actors in a TV show. In fact, David says they don't even exist.
He doesn't exist! You can't do this to someone who doesn't exist!
Not that they're not real, not that it's make-believe, they simply don't exist. At least in the Truman Show, everyone but Truman knew they were making a TV program. And Jennifer almost seems like an afterthought or a mistake with her participation. Yet she takes on the Mary Sue character. And her presence is the catalyst for all the change. If David went in alone, who knows what he would have done, or if he was able to get back. Maybe the motivation for sending him would have been more clear. It's unclear if Bud and Mary Sue are twins like David and Jennifer, but the twin duality was mentioned in the beginning and appeared again at the end. This feels like one of the only symbols of Freemasonry, so what does it really mean? In my opinion, and remember this is just my opinion, Pleasantville is the Babylonian counterfeit of the perfect paradise of eternity.
You don't deserve to live in this paradise.
These people don't get older. They don't do anything wrong or sin in any way. They don't have intimate relationships, and they don't need to learn anything new. The people of Pleasantville have a very strong moral ethic, so much so there's no need for a written law or even a church of any kind. They simply know what to do, and they do it, and life is pleasant. The undefeated basketball team, called the Lions, seems to represent a certain tribe of Israel, the tribe of Judah. In Genesis, when Jacob is blessing his sons, he calls Judah a lion's whelp. He lies down like a lion, who shall rouse him like a lion. And from the tribe of Judah comes Israel's first faithful king, David, and ultimately the Messiah. David was called a man after Yahweh's heart, and perhaps this David is a type of King David. He means to keep Pleasantville the perfect utopia it is created to be, but is tempted astray eventually. There were a few biblical stories I saw represented here, and the first was obviously the forbidden fruit. given to man to eat. But the deluge of rain, followed by a rainbow, seemed also to represent the devastating flood and Noah's Ark. You see, it had never rained in Pleasantville before then, and the Bible says it had never rained on the earth before the floodwaters came. It was a judgment on a wicked and rebellious world, and only few were saved. Admittedly, no one died in the storm in Pleasantville, but the imagery definitely seemed to point to that. Perhaps the Nephilim were dancing in the rain until it overtook them too. The fire that started is also an image of Yahweh's righteous judgment. Again, something the people of Pleasantville had no idea about until that moment. This was an outward sign that the changes that were happening were not for their good. In the end, David sermonizes on the human sin condition, telling the townspeople that this is inside them all. And once they accept their sinful nature, they will be set free. But instead, they are really bondservants to their sin and have no idea how to live their lives from now on. Except the perfect people in Pleasantville didn't try to be perfect. They simply were, until they weren't. So that's all for this one. Thank you for enduring to the end. Give the video a thumbs up if you agree and a thumbs down if you disagree. Comment below what you think I missed with this one and to recommend any 90s movie you'd like me to deconstruct in the future. Side note, I am actively looking for a DVD of Angels in the Outfield, as that was one recommended to me a few weeks ago. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this, and share it out if you found it helpful. But don't follow me. Follow the one who saves you. And until next time, keep looking up.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.